let's talk about hair loss. You've probably tried everything, right? The special shampoos, the creams, all those so-called miracle treatments. But what if the real answer isn't something you put on your head, but something that's happening inside your body? Well, today we're going to dive deep into the science to uncover the true root cause.
So let's start with a feeling I'm sure many of you know all too well. You try everything, you follow all the advice, but nothing seems to make a difference. It's incredibly frustrating, and it's usually because most of those common remedies are completely missing the point.
You see, we're going to explore the idea that the solution isn't topical. It's not about what you put on your scalp, but about what you manage inside your body. It all comes down to a really delicate and honestly often misunderstood hormonal balance. Okay, let's get right into it. We're going to start with one of the most powerful yet frequently ignored factors when it comes to the health of your hair: good old stress.
So, whenever you feel stressed, your body has this automatic response. It releases a hormone called cortisol. Now, it's designed for short-term fight-or-flight moments. The problem is, in our modern world, that stress response can get stuck in the on position, leading to chronically high levels of this hormone.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Look at this chain reaction. High cortisol starts to break down proteins all over your body. And what are your hair, skin, and nails made of? Yep, protein. So that constant, chronic stress is literally weakening the very building blocks of your hair.
And in more extreme cases, it gets even more serious. A major shock or a long, intense period of stress can actually confuse your immune system. It can trigger what's called an autoimmune response, where your own body mistakenly identifies your hair follicles as a threat and, get this, starts to attack them.
And if you think this is some rare condition, just look at these numbers. We're talking about up to 80% of men and 40% of women who experience pattern hair loss. This is not a niche issue. It is an incredibly common hormonal response that affects millions and millions of people.
All right, so let's peel back the next layer of the onion, because stress is just one part of this equation. There's a hidden engine at work here, a very specific hormonal process that directly takes aim at your hair. So the crucial piece of the puzzle is this enzyme right here, 5-alpha reductase. The best way to think about it is like a little factory inside your body. It has one job: to take a standard hormone and convert it into something way more potent.
So what does this factory make? It takes normal, everyday testosterone and supercharges it into something called dihydrotestosterone, or DHT for short. And while testosterone is mostly harmless for your hair, DHT, well, DHT is the real villain here, directly responsible for damaging the follicles. And the way it works is pretty brutal. DHT actually causes the skin around the hair follicle to harden up. This process literally suffocates the follicle. It cuts off its vital supply of blood and nutrients. And over time, the follicle just shrinks and shrinks until eventually it just gives up and stops producing hair altogether.
So the big question is, what revs up this DHT factory? Well, the single biggest trigger for both men and women is high insulin, which is usually caused by high blood sugar. Now, in women, other things like PCOS or the natural drop in progesterone during menopause can also really crank up the activity of this enzyme.
Okay, I know this all might sound a little bit scary, but here's the good news. Now that we understand these internal hormonal switches, we can talk about how to flip them back in your favor. You have so much more control than you might think.
So the main strategy is to basically shut down that 5-alpha reductase enzyme. If you can slow down the factory's production line, you can reduce the amount of that destructive DHT it's pumping out. And the most powerful tool you have to do that, it's your diet.
So, since high insulin is the #1 trigger, the very first step is getting your insulin levels under control. This means things like adopting a low-carb diet, cutting out the refined grains and sugars, the pizza, the cereals, and even trying practices like intermittent fasting, which has been shown to really help lower insulin.
But beyond that, there are specific nutrients that can act as natural brakes on that enzyme. Making sure you have enough zinc is absolutely crucial. Essential fatty acids like DHA and GLA also play a huge role. And there are even certain supplements like saw palmetto that have been shown to be really effective here too.
So, how can you tell if these hormonal changes are starting to affect you? Let's wrap this up with a couple of super simple early warning signs you can check for right now at home. You can do this little test right now. Just take a small bunch of hair, about 60 to 70 strands, and give it a gentle but firm pull. Now look at your hand. If 5 or 6 hairs came out, that's totally normal shedding. But if you're seeing a much bigger clump in your hand, that's a clear signal that your cortisol levels might be high and you could be low on some key nutrients.
Here's another key thing to look for: the pattern of your hair's thickness. Take a look. If you notice your hair is still pretty dense at the back of your head, but it's becoming noticeably thinner towards the front, that's a classic early indicator of the exact hormonal hair loss we've been talking about.
So, when it comes down to it, hair loss isn't just a cosmetic issue. It's a direct signal from your body about your internal health, especially your hormonal balance. Understanding these signs is the first step to fixing the root cause, not just the symptoms. The only question is, are you ready to listen?